What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Humble Warrior checking in. Wanted to do this video today because I wanted to clarify the main difference between Tua and Joe Burrow. I originally wanted to do this video like 2 weeks ago, but took the time to do a little game studying, looked up some stats, looked at some numbers over the last 3 years, did some compare and contrast, and in terms of stats, they're not that far away from each other, but in terms of impact, I think that Tua has a more sharp edge over Joe Burrow. The last 3 years, Tua has basically been a steady anchor for the Alabama offense. Um, he bust onto the scene 2007 national championship game, second half, where he single-handedly led Alabama back from a 13-0 deficit and they ended up defeating the Georgia Bulldogs 20, 26 to 23. Yeah, 26-23 on a 41-yard game-winning touchdown pass. Um, his numbers that year were he completed 49 passes on 77 attempts, um, 636 yards, 11 touchdowns, 2 picks, and he had a passer rating of 175, which is not that bad in college. I wasn't able to find Joe Burrow's 2017 numbers. I understand that he did transfer to LSU at that time, and before that, 2016, I believe, was his redshirt freshman campaign, so he was hurt at Ohio State, so he transferred after JT Barrett took the starting job. Um, Fast forward 2018 to his sophomore year, he was, um, for lack of a better term, spectacular. He was, however, robbed of the Heisman Trophy because of Kyler Murray. But his numbers that year, he was 245 of 355, 69% completion rate, 3,966 yards, 43 touchdowns, 6 picks. The 6 interceptions um, up until the SEC championship game, he was 32-2. So he threw 32 touchdowns, 2 picks. He ramped it up once he got to that game. However, he was 10 of 25 for 164, touchdown, and 2 picks. Now, the 2 picks that he threw in that game, one of them was he basically was baited to throw it, even though Jaden Waddle was open. I think Tua came back to that read a little late, and once he released the ball, he kind of realized he made that mistake because the safety jumped the route, picked it off. The second interception, I think he tried to force it, and of course they made him pay for it. So those 2 interceptions, things like that happen. He went on to the college football semifinal where he faced the Oklahoma Sooners. He basically annihilated them in the first half. Damn near perfect percentage, threw 3 touchdowns. And before Kyler Murray could even blink his eye, they was down 28-0. Second half, he kind of took his foot off the gas, but he finished with roughly 330 yards, like 4 touchdowns, no picks. Fast forward again to the 2018 championship game against Clemson. A lot of people say that Clemson exposed to it, but they really didn't. Their game plan, however, was pretty clever. They disguised better coverages. Their defensive schemes were a little bit more sharp and intact, and he reacted a lot more out of the ordinary than he normally would. But he maintained his composure, and he still delivered. He had 296 yards. I think he had a 67 or 68% complete 67.8% percentage rate, and he had 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. And they got blowed out by 28 points in that game. So, and the injuries that he sustained in 2018, he broke his finger beginning of the year. He recovered from that. Then he sprained his knee. Recovered from that. Then in the SEC championship game, he had a right ankle sprain where His own lineman stepped on the back of his leg, well, stepped on his ankle. Stuff like that rarely doesn't really happen. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really occur much in football. So for that to happen to Tua, it's a freak accident. Like I said, football is a physical sport, and things do happen. However, people make it seem like the man is made of paper. Skip Bayless has the argument to where he says that Tua is like paper mache, and that's not true at all. Because if you were injury prone, then damn near every time you took the field, you're like a liability instead of a help. And Tua has taken countless shots where he's repeatedly got back up and he proceeded on. So that does not make you injury prone. Um, the sprained knee he suffered the following year, 2019, against Missouri, or no, he sprained his knee in 2018 against Missouri. That was a freak accident as well, because I don't know how sliding sprains your knee, but it did. He also got a re-aggravated against Mississippi State that same year when the player literally driven his helmet into his knee to try to break his knee. So, which he was unsuccessful, but he did re-aggravate it. So he had to sit out a few plays or whatever. But he got back on the field, led him to victory. They moved on. So 2019, he suffered a left ankle sprain, um, in which the player tackled his leg and it folded. Rarely ever happens in football, but it does happen. You get enough weight on that ankle, it will, it eventually is going to fold, and that's what happened to him. However, he didn't stay out many games. He bounced right back, and then of course we all know the Mississippi State game where he broke his hip and he broke his nose. So all in all, his injuries have not been that severe. However, they have been, head scratchers. You know, but my only flaw that I see that Tua has is his inability to let go of a play. He will stretch it. He will try to go for the big shot. He will attempt to keep the play alive even when people are covered down the field. And that's something that I know that he will improve on going to the next level. Um, as far as his stats from 2019, now this is through 12 games. He threw for 2,840 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 3 picks. He was also rated at 206.9, which was the best in the country. Even when Joe Burrow was rated at 200, Joe Burrow's rating was 202.0. So, and he threw 60 touchdowns and I think 6 interceptions, right? Yeah, 6 picks. So, for what Tua did last season, I mean, had he stayed healthy, he would have hit 45, 50 touchdowns. But then again, Tua didn't also play into 4 quarter games like Joe Burrow did. He actually set out a lot. 2018 was proven fact to that. He set out 10 straight 4 quarter games where the opponent didn't even get nowhere near Alabama, so they didn't need him. So his numbers from 2018 and last season would have been a lot more had he played. But Coach Saban don't believe in piling on points against people. Once he get up on you comfortably, he just smothers you. So Tua was no longer needed. Um, However, the Mississippi State game, we was up 35-7. I kind of wish Tua had sat down, but I think he wanted to end the half on a good note. And once again, that tackle, he was literally tackled by 3 people at one time. So he breaks his hip, and then people go into a frenzy about, well, is he really worth a top 5 pick? Did you not see the last 3 years of the man played? Did you not see the productivity, the accuracy, the leadership, the morale, all the above when he stepped on that field? Because with Jalen Hurts, we were dead to rights. Teams knew we were one-dimensional. They knew that Jalen Hurts could not pass. Even this past season, Jalen Hurts barely got 1,000 yards more than Tua. And he threw 1 less touchdown than Tua did. He threw 2 more picks than Tua did. Actually, he threw 5 more picks than Tua did this past season because he was 32-8. Tua was 33-3. So it's not to convince you of who's better, but this is a compare and contrast. Joe Burrow's 2018 season, he was uh, he was decent, but he had basically pedestrian numbers. He threw for 2,894 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 5 picks. And he had a passer rating of 133.2. So Tua's always maintained that 170 passer rating throughout his college career. It just goes to show you how much more deadly he is with a football in his hand. Joe Burrow was basically he was fortunate because Joe Brady catered the offense that he brought from New Orleans directly to the LSU Tigers, and they modified that to make it so much more easy for Joe Burrow. That's not to say that you know he can't catch on because if that's the case, his numbers would have mirrored from 2018 to 2019, but they didn't. Because 2018 he was basically pedestrian. 2019 he was a superstar. He went for 5,671 yards, 60 touchdowns, and 5 picks. So he was upgraded he was given an upgraded offensive coordinator, and then he took off from there. Tua has been through three different offensive coordinators. His numbers have not dwindled. Well, due to injuries, they did, but as far as his productivity on the field, his numbers did not dwindle because this year alone against two teams he put up 400 plus yards. South Carolina he put up 444. Against LSU he put up 416 or 418. He also had multiple 4+ touchdown games this season, in which he basically willed the team to blowouts and stuff like that. Against LSU, he actually had a second half charge that would have won us the game had we not made stupid penalties and had our defense actually came to play. Because the busted coverages we had, I mean, anybody can throw those those throw. Anybody could throw to those receivers that LSU had who kept getting wide open, even when Joe Burrow was underthrowing them. So there's not much to compare between Tua and Joe Burrow. The only thing people look at is what Joe Burrow did this season versus 2018. That's not an argument to be had because 1 year a coordinator makes you a Heisman Trophy winner, a national championship winner, and a first overall pick. Now, once he goes and learns a new system in Cincinnati, who's to say he's going to be able to pick it up? Who's to say he's going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year? I don't see it happening. I do see him, he's going to have a decent career or a decent year as a rookie. I know he's going to start from day one, so he has to jump to the fire and, produce right away. Will he put up godly numbers? I doubt it. But he's going to make his presence felt because that division is not that strong. So he's going to have an opportunity to win and win right away. Even though they don't have the many pieces around him, but they're going to try to do their best to compensate for that. Now, Tua's walking into a very interesting situation because the AFC East, which is where he'll be playing at, with the Patriots, the Bills, the Jets, they're wide open. You got Sam Darnold, you got Josh Allen, and the Patriots, we don't know who their quarterback going to be, so Miami has an opportunity to actually steal a conference title. May not be this year, may not be this season, but the next 2-3 years coming, yes, they do have an opportunity to steal it. I will say this: Miami has an opportunity this season alone to win 7 or 8 games. They may be able to sneak and get a wild card. I'm assuming if Ryan Fitzpatrick lays an egg, as long as they give Tua the protection he needs, he's gonna produce. Those wide receivers are gonna produce. Because again, people say that okay, well he had a lot of elite speed around him. That's not up for debate. But at the same time, look at the numbers that these boys put up with Tua versus with Jalen. It's not even a conversation to be had. Because last year, Jerry Jeudy won the Biletnikoff Award, which is given to the best receiver in the country, and that's when Tua put up 3,000, almost 4,000 yards of offense with 43 touchdowns. And Jerry Jeudy had 17 touchdowns last season. This season alone, Devontae Smith had 16 plus touchdowns, and he didn't even get mentioned on the list. And he had over 1,400 yards receiving. And Jerry Jeudy had close to 1,000 yards, I believe, receiving for this past year. And Henry Ruggs, he was not as productive as he was 2018, but and I think that's due to some injuries and him being like a third or fourth wheel. But it's also due to Mac Jones because when Tua was out there, Henry he was getting the ball. Once Tua went down, it's like the receiving core just they were obsolete because he only looked to Jalen Waddle. No disrespect to Jalen, Jalen's a beast, but you got more than Jalen Waddle out there. You have three killers, and I don't see why they wouldn't be able to get the ball. And not to mention Najee Harris out the backfield. So you got the weapons. For me, like I said, I think that Tua is a once in a generational talent. You put the pieces around him, he's gonna produce. Now Miami don't have much to work with, but I guarantee you what they do have, he's gonna maximize those people. Devontae Parker, the tight end they drafted, the rookie tight end, the running backs, offensive line, he's gonna maximize that. Whether you get 6, 7 wins or whatever, I mean it'll be more than what you had the previous season. They got 5 wins, so I believe they can get 2 more. I believe they can get 7 in their first year with 2 as a starter. I do believe that. Now, are we talking playoffs? No, I'm not going to go that high because that's unrealistic. You're asking him to wield them to the playoffs. Can he do it? Yes. Given a division, he can almost get them there. But we know Miami's not the great team that everybody in the league knows Miami's not that great. As a matter of fact, they got high at the end of the year and they started winning games once they figured it out. They do have a pretty good coaching staff. They do got a up-and-coming young coach in Brian Flores, who I believe will put together a solid game plan this season to get them a better chance to succeed versus going 0-11 like they did last year. Plus, he went and got a Hall of Fame type quarterback in the draft. And yes, I said Hall of Fame type quarterback because Tua is a Hall of Fame type quarterback. He can become one. It's not like he can't. There's no written bust on him at all. I'm not saying it is for Joe Burrow. I'm not saying that. But when people talk about Tua and they say, oh, well, he's injury prone, you have to watch out for, his inconsistencies and stuff like that. Who doesn't have those moments? Who doesn't get rattled from time to time? I mean, but he'll still stand there and make that throw. He'll still deliver the ball where it needs to be. He'll still look off for safety and throw it in the opposite direction and pinpoint, hit the receiver in stride to where he ain't got to stop or turn around or make a circus catch. I've seen him throw fade routes, slants, deep balls, comeback routes, all kind of stuff. I've seen him do it all. I've seen him elude pressure to get the ball down the field. He never ever looks at the defender. He's always looking down the field to get the ball down there. And that's something that, many quarterbacks, you can't teach them. And another thing, the reason why Tua's numbers are so screwed because, like I said early in the video, most of his production came the first half. Most of it came the first 3 quarters. By the mid-third quarter, Tua was sitting down. So if you do the last 2 years, which is probably, I want to say, 18, 19 quarters that he sat down, imagine what he could have done in 19 quarters. With just the numbers alone that he was putting up. He could easily have 5,000 yards last season and probably this season too. So, but because Tua's not a selfish player, he's not a me type guy, he didn't mind sitting down because, the team no longer needed him. They already got out to a comfortable lead and they were going to, like I said, smother their opposing offense. So it didn't matter. But, for those who do speak down on Tua, you guys gotta look at the bigger picture. Yeah, you guys say Joe Burrow wasn't hurt, but he was at Ohio State. Then he came to LSU. They shielded him the first year where he really wasn't running a stagnant offense. And when they came up against Tua lit him up in Baton Rouge. And they lost 29-0. And Joe Burrow was horrible in that game. Absolutely horrible. And then in 1 year, he gets an NFL-type offensive coordinator who actually coached in the NFL, who actually coached the NFL offense, and look what you get. 60 touchdowns and 5 picks. 5,000 plus yards of offense. A Heisman Trophy and that championship winner. And then they all of a sudden, now he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Stop it. The man did not outplay Tua in his own home. And let me say this right here to Skip Bayless, the 2018 SC Championship game. Yes, Tua was 10 of 25 for 164 yards and a touchdown and 2 picks. But the drive you're referring to, when you said that he was yanked, he was not yanked at all. He got hurt with 11 minutes to go in the third quarter. He was taken down by his own teammate. And then from there, Jalen Hurts did not score to actually the fourth quarter of that game. Because he didn't that drive that they had when Tua went down, Jalen Hurts didn't score a touchdown. They went 3 and out repeatedly until he finally got it together and started making passes down the field. And that came when they scored. They scored once, I believe, toward the beginning of the fourth quarter. Then they scored again toward the end when he made several crucial passes down the field to receivers. And then they tied it up. But when Tua got hurt, the score was, I believe, 28-21. So they wasn't down by 14 points. Just saying. You got to go?
Yeah, I go to the store.
You better shame yourself. Because it's YouTube. I ain't getting paid for this. But, yes. So, know your facts. I get it. You've been doing this for 30 plus years or whatever it is. But don't sit there and say the man, got yanked. Jalen got yanked. Tua didn't. Joe Burrow, he should have been yanked last season, but, he caught fire toward the end of the year. And then he got help from an experienced offensive coordinator, and then he took off from there. But Tua has never been yanked. Even against Clemson in that championship game, he still stayed out there the entire game until the final zeros was off the clock. No, I'm sorry, no he didn't. I'll correct myself. He got yanked in the fourth quarter toward the end. They put Jalen in there, and he was just like, go for broke, Jalen. And Jalen did what he always do. Run to the right and throw it out of bounds. Because he damn sure wasn't throwing nobody else. So, like my boy Shannon said, Tua's a can't miss. The Dolphins made the right pick. They really did. Regardless of what anybody says, or they try to trade up to get Joe Burrow wouldn't be able to fit their system because Joe Burrow's not flexible enough. If you go through Steve Sarkisian, Brian, I forgot that guy's name. That he was a NFL coordinator, but Steve Sarkisian, Mike, the guy that went to Maryland, I know his first name Mike, and then Brian, I think it's Dawlings or whatever, the OC that was with the Patriots. If you can go through those 3 systems and still produce, you're a pretty good quarterback. You really are elite. So there's no real comparison here. Tua's way better than Joe Burrow. In fact, I can make a case he's better than Trevor Lawrence. Because in that championship game they met up, Tua still damn near outthrew him. The only thing Trevor did, and like I told my boy when I talked to him yesterday, the only thing Trevor did was look to the right. If you go back and look at the film, he looked directly on Savion Smith's side. That's where they had Justin Ross lined up. And that's where they had T. Higgins lined up. Anywhere that they were lined up, everybody lined up on Savion Smith's side. They didn't even go to Patrick Surtain's side. And he was a freshman at that time. They didn't go to his side of the field. They went to the weak link. And they just ate him up. There's no disrespect to Trevor Lawrence, but the truth is the truth. They basically gave him a platter of plays to use, and he used them. And for that, he looked like the hero. But to me, you guys game plan all year round for Tua. You forced 2 interceptions, but then he torched you on the very. So he threw a pick 6. I think on the first possession he had, he threw a pick 6. Came back down the very next possession that he got the ball. Threw a dart to Jerry Jeudy in stride, touchdown. And then he forced 1 pick because he threw it between 3 people. And Jerry Jeudy started running. He ran under the ball and caught it, picked it off. So the second pick had nothing to do with, scheme. It was just Tua being a daredevil. The first pick was not Tua's fault because they disguised it so well that when Tua saw the receiver going out, so did Terrell, the guy that got drafted by Atlanta, he saw the same thing, and he jumped the route. So kudos to Clemson. Very smart defensive scheme, very smart play calling. You guys was a much better team that year, and you beat us fair and square. There's no excuses to that. But don't sit there and say that Trevor Lawrence is better than Tua, because that's a lie too. He's a great quarterback in his own right, but I've seen that boy crumble. So But anyway, that's not to get off on Trevor Lawrence. This is about Tua and Joe Burrow, and um, these are my opinions. But go look at the numbers for yourself. For Tua to have the highest passer rating this past season, it only goes to show you how great the young man really is as a QB. He's a monster. He's a monster. So with that being said, you guys have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the video, and God bless.